Hello everyone, this is Gorax and today I'm gonna show you a poison team that doesn't need Lothair, and this team can be top team in the end game of season 2. This team's damage can go very high if you have a lot of inspiration, but there's also one thing that I can do on a test server is surviving the whole battle. The issue here is it's very hard to build this team with the right stats, especially if your psychic core is not properly developed. I also believe that this team will do even more damage if you manually cast their ultimates, especially Vikanas. So the team on the screen is fully inspired with Inspiration 5 on the legendary heroes, but don't worry, I'll show you Inspiration 0 team as well. As you can see, even though we're running Ogok, we still can't keep the team alive, and Corin, who's the most squishy target in that team, has fallen a couple minutes before the end of the fight. So at this stage, you should already know the strategy, but let's go over the test and setup and the strategy of this boss. This will be the psychic core we will use during the tests. As you can see, I couldn't max out tier 6, mainly because they moved the date on the test server couple weeks, skipping the otherworld exploration totally, so my psychic core will be way behind you. I will still try not to use temper and elemental enhancement on the equipment. However, in some cases, that will be necessary to keep the teams in line with survivability, as I'm missing so much psychic core. Now, let's talk about the strategy and the boss skills. Mekkatorque has 3 passives. First passive, for each debuff the boss is inflicted with, gain 1 stack of misstep for an unlimited duration. As long as you apply the debuff once, you will have 1 stack of misstep, which increases the damage taken by the boss by 10%. If you can utilize this debuff, your team's damage is going to go through the roof, and some teams will have up to 10 stacks of this debuff. Gains immunity to all control and ultimate down. When inflicted with charm, fear or blind, the boss gains a stack of frothed transmission for 10 seconds. What does do is decreases the damage dealt by the boss by 30%. So if you can not survive long enough, bringing someone who can apply one of those 3 will increase your team's survivability, especially if it's on low cooldown like battle skill. His unstable core gains a stack of permanent overheated each time a skill is cast. While the boss is under overheated, attacks all enemies every 10 seconds with each stack of overheated, dealing fire damage. His first skill happens at 6 seconds and it deals AoE damage while also spawning 6 magic crystal projectiles. This is where your damage will be coming from, as that enables AoE damage dealers. While the projectile damage and debuffs applied to the projectile are applied to Mekkatorque at the same time, while the projectile also inherits misstep from Mekkatorque. So as you can see, 100% damage increase, well, 10% damage increase per misstep on the boss, and each of the minions, the magic crystals that he does spawn, super huge damage for AoE teams. Mekkatorque. Once the projectile reaches 1 HP, it gains core damage, and that's another important mechanic. The projectile launches lasers at set intervals, dealing damage to enemies within a line, and additionally inflicts recharge speed penalty on the targets if it's not under core damage. So if you have AoE that can take down these magic crystals, you will avoid recharge speed penalty, which will help you tremendously to keep your team in sync. His second skill will deal fire damage twice. His third skill will deal fire damage to all enemies. His fourth skill will unleash a sweeping attack across the field from left to right. Each hit will deal fire damage to enemies and reduce the current skill damage by 10%. Will also dispel all buffs from them. So that's quite important. And then the skill that does quite a lot of damage is the energy pulse wave, where he charges up briefly and then unleashes a high energy beam, dealing damage to all enemies. And here is how it looks in action. You can see we spawn these cores, we apply debuffs, trigger our AoE, and they're now at the low HP and disappear, not applying recharge speed penalty. So this is quite important to know and try and utilize this mechanic. Right, now that I took off the inspirations from all the legendary heroes, let me explain to you why this team is so hard to build without these inspirations. Because you need to build most of your heroes with accuracy and resistance as well as offensive stats, because poison needs to be applied. So our main poison applier will be Durango. Durango applies a lot of poison through his basic attack, skills, and we need to build him with crit rate, accuracy to apply that, and resistance. We will also use 3-year set that will boost our damage and witches remain to reduce the defense of the boss. And this is the talents that I used. So why do inspirations matter? Because if you have fully maxed out inspiration of Durango, you will ignore 35% of resistance of the target. That means you need less accuracy. For Ogok, you don't need any accuracy to apply the debuffs from the battle skill. Similar for Twitch, you don't need any accuracy when you inflict debuffs with skill, with the ultimate skill. He does apply a lot through the battle skill though. And same with Vikana on her battle skill. So those inspirations will make your team build easier, way easier. But anyway, so I did talk about Durango already. Let's go over Ogok. So Ogok will be a mandatory support here, and we want as much haste on him as possible. I was lucky to get quadruple haste on this run. However, this one has only 2 haste. Even with this haste, we still don't quite get a 15-second rotation. If our heroes don't resist, we won't be able to hit it. But this is why we also use Gatekeeper Staff instead of the Horn. We want as much haste as possible to ensure 15-second rotation as quickly as possible. And this is the talent that we use. And this is why we mainly use this talent paired with this one, so we can get this 1% ultimate energy that is necessary. Obviously, inspirations will help with it, because at an inspiration of 3 you got extra 30 haste, which is quite good. I tried running Puppeteer set here, and it didn't work quite well, so there might be something else blocking us from this 15-second rotation. But anyway, the best set to use is the Iceberg Guardian, which will grant you both accuracy and resistance. And if you don't have Ogok at Inspiration 5, you need that accuracy. And also a chance of applying an extra debuff, which means you'll be doing more damage. So that's all what we are looking for. Vikana will be the main damage dealer, and she is the mandatory hero here. If you don't have her, you're not even gonna be close to this kind of damage. We're gonna run her with the 4 mythic equipment. You could also try and use the poison one that will increase the damage, but this works pretty well, and I had quite good stats there. She is the only hero that doesn't really need accuracy and resistance, but she's quite squishy, so you might try and look for attack, enlightenment, and extra HP, because she tends to die rather quickly. What else we'll build is this talent tree, and once again, any inspirations will only help you with the damage done. We're gonna bring Twitch to the team as well, and surprisingly, this is the strategy they used in the Chinese version of the game. If you look at this artifact, it gives you accuracy, which is all we need, really. We want accuracy to apply debuffs if we don't have Inspiration 5. This also increases the chance of inflicting status with skills by 20%. If you have a look at this battle skill, which scales with enlightenment, this is why we want enlightenment on him as well, we're gonna cast arrows, and they only have 75% chance of inflicting poison. With this artifact, we're looking at 95% of chance of inflicting the poison, so more poisons, okay? I mean, we have Durango, and it's quite easy to already stack it, but I've tested that with the other artifact as well, and this still gave me the best results, although Twitch lost a lot of enlightenment. So I used the statue, and the damage was not even close. Now, without inspirations, this team has hard time surviving more than 6 minutes, because my Psychic Core is terrible. Lastly, I'm just gonna show you the talents of the Twitch, because he will be our second damage dealer. We will move on to Corrin. Still viable. I tried using Slate here, I tried using Lothair, and they did not bring any improvement to this team. Corrin did so much better. We're gonna use Emissary set with the Titan's Ribcage, which will help us resist and get extra ultimate for Ogog. We'll also use these gloves. When we are inflicted with negative effect, we have 50% chance of inflicting speed penalty. I mean, there's nothing really better than that. You could use anything else really, but this gives us a chance. I'm not sure if it actually works when we resist it. But yeah, I mean, I just went for these gloves because they had HP resistance and huge accuracy. As I said, quite hard to build them, right? And these are the talents that I used on Corrin. The timings are pretty simple, and you notice that we're gonna use them most of the time for this boss, right? So damage dealers at 30-second rotation, unless they can be like Durango or Ascetius on 15-second. And we'll always start with debuffers. In our case, that's Vikana, then poison appliers, which is remain plus poison, and then Corrin to refresh all the poison stacks, etc. Because remember, the debuffs you apply to the minions are also applied to the boss. So that helps with refreshing all the stacks there, and that's pretty much it when it comes to the strategy. So you saw how much damage we can do with inspirations. Let me show you how much damage we can do without the inspirations, as that will be problematic. Now, as I said, you could probably improve this damage by casting Vikana's ultimate into the minions, because she is targeting the boss. If you cast it on the minions, the explosion might target them. I'm not sure if it targets them when you cast it on the boss. If you tested that, let me know in the comment section down below. But one thing I'm not gonna do during testing is manually play it. I would do that if I were competing on the global, but I'm not gonna run it manually 100 times to see the best results. So I'm gonna show you that in auto. Still, auto might be the best way to deal with it, and the lazy way really, but in some cases, in some fights, manually casting the ultimates against certain bosses is gonna give you the biggest results. So just to speed it up, this team is about to do 400 million. However, as I said, without inspirations, we are more squishy because my Psychic Core is terrible this season because we skipped a few weeks of this game. But other than that, we're still looking at solid damage, and I believe this will be like third strongest team. If you can make this team survive the whole battle, you're looking at even more damage. But yeah, you'd really need Ogog in this team, mainly because you're running 4 poison damage dealers. I tried running it with 3 poison damage dealers and some extra support to help us survive, and the damage was nowhere close. So yeah, you really need Ogog. If you don't have Ogog, then well, you won't be doing that much damage. But even though we have Ogog, we are still dying. As I said, Vikana is really squishy in this build, but with good RNG, this team can get up to 400 million. Which is quite good, because we already covered a few other teams that can do over 400 million, which were Salmon and the Burn team. So yeah, that's this strategy. Pretty simple. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this team. Are there any improvements? If you've been following Chinese version of the game, then maybe you know how they make this team survive, because I just can't do it. And as I said, I don't really have much temperament. I don't have really much equipment enhancement, and my Psychic Core is rubbish. So you will do way better than I do if you follow this simple template. Once again, thank you all for watching. Stay safe. Bye.